It's 6 p.m. on a Thursday here in Korea. Welcome to our newscast. I'm Daniel Che. Let us begin with the headlines. President Park Geunhye calls on the nation to support the location chosen for deployment of the THAAD missile defense system and to unite for the sake of national security, adding the decision was made with utmost discretion. And as scheduled, President Park leaves for Mongolia to attend the ASEM summit and build on the already strong Seoul-Ulaanbaatar ties. Before her arrival, the local media published an exclusive interview with the Korean leader detailing efforts to strengthen economic cooperation. Korea's central bank keeps its key rate steady for now following a surprise cut last month, but it could lower the rate further. President Park Geunhye will cast off to Mongolia in a few hours for a 4-day visit. But first, she put the brakes on the growing controversy surrounding the THAAD decision. Chairing a National Security Council meeting, the president said that it's time to end the, quote, unnecessary disputes on the issue and focus on keeping the country safe. Our Kwon Jang-ho starts us off.
The best option possible. President Park says the location where the U.S. missile defense system THAAD will be stationed in Seongju, Gyeongsang-buk-do province was selected with the utmost discretion and analysis. She said around 10 sites were thoroughly studied and evaluated through a simulation over the course of 4 months, and the chosen location will best complement Seoul's missile defense system while covering the greatest amount of area.
현재 우리 공군이 대공 미사일 기지로 사용하고 있는 성주 기지는 다른 후보지에 비해 부지가 넓고 평탄해서 사드 장비를 안전 기준에 맞게 배치할 수가 있고 북한의 탄도 미사일 위협에 대해 중부 이남 지역 대부분을 방어할 수 있습니다.
President Park noted that part of the Allies' Patriot missile system can be relocated to the Seoul metropolitan area, further reinforcing the air defenses in the capital region. The president also called on the nation to support the decision and unite for the sake of national security, saying that it's time to put an end to the unnecessary controversy.
오늘날 대한민국의 안보는 커다란 도전에 직면해 있습니다. 이해 당사자 간의 충돌과 반목으로 정쟁이 나서 국가와 국민의 안위를 잃어버린다면 더 이상 대한민국은 존재하지 않을 것입니다.
President Park also reassured the residents in the selected location that there's no need to worry about the radar's effects on humans or agricultural crops, as the radar will be stationed high above the towns at an altitude of 400 meters, while the waves are emitted at an altitude of 700 meters. Kwon Jang-ho, Arirang News.
Korea's 3 main political parties have agreed to hold a parliamentary session next week on the THAAD issue. The Prime Minister, the Defense and Foreign Ministers, and other key officials have been asked to attend the session stated for next Tuesday and Wednesday. Lawmakers are expected to grill the officials on the safety concerns related to the system's radar and the potential for diplomatic discord stemming from China and Russia's objections to the deployment. The decision to deploy THAAD was supported by the ruling Saenuri Party, while the main opposition Minju Party of Korea has remained neutral, although some of its lawmakers have expressed their discontent. The minor opposition People's Party has been pushing the government to seek parliamentary approval for the plan and urged President Park Geunhye to hold a meeting with party representatives. The official state visit to Mongolia and the ASEM summit. Both events will provide the president with a platform from which to tackle challenges both on the economy and security fronts and garner international support. Song Ji-sun gives us a preview of the president's trip.
특히 브렉시트 이후 보호무역주의와 신고립주의 확산이 우려가 되고 있는데 앞으로 우리가 대외지향적 개방정책 기조를 선도하고 자유무역 규범의 공고화를 이끌어가는 첫 번째 외교 무대로 이번 아셈 정상회의가 중요하다고 봅니다.
President Park will take the stage at the Asia-Europe meeting, hoping to use it as an opportunity to promote Korea as a leading open trade nation. The summit, celebrating 20 years of solidarity between Asia and Europe this year, is the first multilateral event to be held since Britain's decision to leave the European Union. More than 50 leaders will discuss ways to enhance their intercontinental partnership on issues ranging from climate change to terror threats, and North Korea will be a part of that agenda as one of the threats to security and the economy in the region.
President Park will point to North Korea as the biggest threat to realization of the potential for cooperation for the peace and prosperity of Asia and Europe. She will suggest that the ultimate solution to North Korea's nuclear and human rights issues is unification on the Korean peninsula, and she will call for ASEM member nations' cooperation in pressing the regime.
President Park will also hold bilateral talks with the leaders of the European Union, Laos, and Vietnam between the sessions on Friday. Through a speech at the summit, President Park will help guide the discussion by laying out her vision for the ASEAN nations as they work to overcome a new set of challenges. 송지성, Arirang News.
Ahead of that diplomacy trip, Mongolian news agency Mongsame published a written interview with President Park. In the interview, the Korean leader said she would focus her trip on strengthening economic cooperation between Seoul and Ulaanbaatar, including collaborative efforts against Pyongyang's provocations. She sees opportunities for greater bilateral collaboration in the fields of IT, telemedicine, e-government, and the development of renewable energy sources. President Park noted this trip is meaningful to her because it follows the Mongolian president's visit to Seoul in May, when they agreed to take their centuries-long relationship into the future. Ahead of high-level talks between South Korea, the U.S., and Japan in Hawaii on Thursday, Seoul held separate bilateral meetings on Wednesday with a focus on North Korea. Vice Foreign Minister Im Sung-nam said, and his U.S. counterpart Tony Blinken agreed to prioritize the North's denuclearization, as denuclearizing Pyongyang and neutralizing its missile development is of strategic interest to all countries. The two also reaffirmed the recent decision to deploy the U.S. missile defense system known as THAAD to South Korea. Im and his Japanese counterpart Shinsuke Sugiyama discussed ways to gain greater global support in pressuring Pyongyang and implementing sanctions on the regime. The Bank of Korea has slashed its growth outlook for the year, but kept its key rate steady as it looks to assess the effects of fiscal stimulus that's on its way. According to Hwang Ji-hye, with lingering uncertainties and low inflation prospects, expectations remain for more rate cuts down the road.
The Bank of Korea has revised down its growth projection for the domestic economy for this year to 2.7% on Thursday. This is 1/10 of a percentage point lower than its earlier forecast in April. The downgrade came despite a rate cut just last month and the government's aggressive stimulus package that includes an extra budget worth around $8.5 billion.
The rate cut and the government's fiscal support measures are estimated to push up the country's growth rate by 0.2 percentage points.
This, however, is based on calculations that the extra budget is passed swiftly by the National Assembly. The parliament has in the past been criticized for weakening the impact of the extra budget by dragging its feet and delaying implementation. That's why experts say the central bank could lower the key rate by 25 basis points towards the end of this year after taking a wait-and-see approach following its surprise rate cut in June.
If the extra budget does not have the impact that policymakers expected, and if the pace of improvement of exports is slower than the central bank's forecast, it's likely the BOK will lower the interest rate.
Heightened external uncertainties like Britain's decision to leave the European Union coupled with low inflation are also fueling such expectations.
Consumer prices grew a mere 0.9% in the first 6 months of this year from the same period a year earlier, running significantly lower compared to the 2% target. It's because the upward pressure from the demand side was weak due to the sluggish pace of recovery.
The BOK now expects consumer prices to grow 1.1% this year. It was the first time Korea's central bank held a separate briefing to explain why the country's inflation has been trailing its target. The governor, however, pointed to high exposure the prices have to external factors like commodities as being the main reason behind the lackluster growth. Hwang Ji-hye, Arirang News.
With tensions in South Sudan rising despite a ceasefire between rival factions, the local embassies of Korea, the United States, Germany, and Japan began evacuating their citizens from the capital, Juba. Seoul's Minister of Foreign Affairs said the Korean embassy in South Sudan has formed a special task force to aid the evacuation of Korean nationals. 32 Koreans, not including embassy staff, currently reside in South Sudan, mostly working for the UN and other relief organizations. Most of them have expressed their wish to stay in the country if possible, while 4 moved to neighboring country Uganda on a commercial aircraft on July 13th local time. The renewed conflict in South Sudan, which began on July 7th, has reportedly claimed the lives of over 300 people so far. Theresa May has taken over as Britain's new leader. She is Britain's second female prime minister and replaces David Cameron, who stepped down after losing the EU referendum, resulting in Brexit, of course. Park Jong-hong shares with us her resolve and quick decisions made.
The UK has ushered in a new British Prime Minister. Theresa May, in her inaugural remarks as Britain's second female PM in history, vowed to lead a one-nation government that works for everyone.
We will rise to the challenge. As we leave the European Union, we will forge a bold new positive role for ourselves in the world. And we will make Britain a country that works not for a privileged few, but for every one of us.
She said it would be her mission to, quote, build a better Britain. In a bold move upon taking office, Theresa May was quick to appoint Boris Johnson, the prominent yet controversial Leave EU campaigner, as her foreign secretary. She sacked Finance Minister George Osborne, replacing him with Philip Hammond. May also named David Davis the Secretary of State for exiting the EU, a newly created position. Liam Fox has the role as Secretary of State for International Trade, a pivotal position as Britain finds itself having to sign a slew of new trade deals. Hoping to unite a divided nation after the referendum, Theresa May's new cabinet lineup is seen to reflect a good balance of figures who had either opposed or endorsed the Brexit initiative. Park Jong-hong, Arirang News.
It's been a year since the channel you're watching, Global English channel Arirang TV, has become the first Korean broadcaster to be included in the UN's in-house network channels. Our Park Ji-won brings us some inside coverage on it from the UN headquarters in New York.
This is the United Nations headquarters in New York, where hundreds of UN officials and tourists busily come and go every day. And in the one corner of the lobby near the front gate, there's a screen attached on the wall, and look, it's broadcasting Arirang TV. It's been a year since Korea's global broadcaster that reaches over 120 million households worldwide was designated as one of the UN headquarters in-house network channels. UN officials can watch these in-house channels while they work at their desks.
As you can see here, each desk is equipped with a monitor showing the UN's in-house network channels, including Arirang TV.
Under the channel name Korea Arirang, Arirang TV is one of only 19 UN in-house channels, along with international broadcasters like CNN and BBC World, and major American news networks like NBC and ABC. The UN's Under-Secretary General Christina Gallag explains that Arirang TV brings greater regional diversity to the UN's lineup of channels.
It is very important that the channels that are broadcasted internally do represent the key actors in the international community, different regions in the world, and help to open us to different cultures and economic and social issues.
Veteran journalist Gianpaolo Pioli, who has been covering the UN for the past 31 years as a resident correspondent, says he sometimes gets help from Arirang TV.
I used to have my screen at the UN split on 4 with the internal television, and one of the 4 channels is Arirang. Why? Well, because I need a different point of view, especially if I follow a story about North Korea or South Korea. I consider your channel.
The ambassador and permanent representative of South Korea to the United Nations hopes Arirang TV keeps playing an important role at the UN.
As Arirang TV can be viewed by diverse UN member states and the employees of the UN Secretariat, I hope the channel makes the most of the opportunity and maintains the quality of its content.
Korea's prime English channel Arirang TV is part of the in-house network at the UN headquarters for 5 years. The partnership will be reviewed when deciding to renew the contract or not. So now it's up to Arirang TV to provide more up-to-date global news and content to remain as one of the UN's in-house network broadcasters for more years to come. Park Ji-won, Arirang News, New York.
The United Nations, tasked with setting and maintaining standards for the way countries interact with one another and the rest of the world, our Yoon-shin takes a look at how its New York headquarters represents the heart of the organization.
Since the end of World War II, the United Nations has been trying to carry out its central mission to maintain international peace and security. And it's been doing that at its headquarters in New York since 1952. Built by an international and collaborative team of designers, it aimed to provide its 192 member states with a forum to engage in dialogue and find areas of agreement to solve international problems and conflicts in a peaceful manner. Its status as a global organization that rises above national borders is underscored by the fact that, although the building is based on American soil, the land is owned by the UN organization alone and is not under jurisdiction of the US government. Although there are other headquarters in Geneva, Vienna, and Nairobi, it's the New York headquarters that can be viewed as the heart of the organization. It houses the infamous General Assembly Hall, which is a unique place where esteemed speakers can address the whole world in a single room. The conference building holds the Security Council chamber, where world leaders make the tough choices, such as how to resolve issues of peace and security. And the Secretariat building is where the Secretary General, wherever he or she is from, has offices. Who that will be is currently being debated, but whoever is chosen will share the same corridors with representatives from all over the world. Yoon-shin, Arirang News.
We've come to the end of this hour's newscast. As always, thank you for watching.